Hi everyone, Stephen here at Teach Me Music, and today we're going to be talking about cleaning and maintaining your bass. And it's really important because you don't want to have a really disgusting, grimy, dirty, insert obviously bad word, bass. The idea is if you can keep your instrument clean, it's going to be easier to play, it's going to be smoother to play, which means your hands can go up and down the instrument a lot easier. And it's also going to sound better, because if you get loads of dirt, grime and so forth on the strings, that is eventually going to translate to how the bass sounds, because obviously the sound starts from your fingers into the strings and obviously through the instrument itself into the amp, etc. You don't need to understand the full progression of how a bass makes sound yet, but the idea is if you can keep your strings clean and you can keep your bass clean, that's a good thing to do. So you may notice that this bass right here, which is the Ibanez SR1300, the one that you may have seen me use in other videos, has no strings. Well, that's because we're going to string it, clean it and maintain it. So the first thing you want to do, and I've already done it just to speed this up a little, is take all the strings off. So the tuning pegs, check out my anatomy of the bass guitar first if you don't know what a tuning peg is. You're going to tune all the way down with the tuning pegs, so the string's getting looser, and then when it's really loose, really loose, you can just pull it out of the machine head, pull it off the bass and out of the bridge. Just before we get started, you need to know the tuning peg, the machine heads and the bridge, because that's where the string is basically going to make contact. So how do we clean it? Well, today I'm going to be talking to you about a 4-step process. Sometimes you can't actually do the 4-step process because of the bass you have, and I'll explain that as we go, but it's the Adario Cleaning Essentials Kit. So I'm going to show you what it looks like, talk you through each one and how to use it. So this is the Adario Cleaning Essentials Kit, and it has 4 different things in it. You've got step 1, step 2, step 3, and then a hydrate. And the hydrate is basically something that hydrates your bass and the bass neck, just so it gives you that nice polished finish, nice polished sound. So I'm going to open it up, show you what you basically get and how to use it. Just a massive disclaimer though, depending on the finish of your bass, so whether it's matte or whether it's natural wood, and depending on your neck and fretboard, if they are made of certain wood or they've got a certain finish, you don't want to use certain things from this kit because it's going to slightly damage them and discolor it. So I'll talk you through all of that as we move forward. In the Essentials Kit, we obviously get the cloth, which obviously helps you clean the bass itself. And this is a microfiber cloth. Microfiber is really important because it doesn't scratch the instrument. It basically allows you to polish and clean the instrument without causing any damage, which is super useful, right? We want to look after our bass guitar. So we're going to be using this in a bit. The first step is what they call the detailer. This is basically something that makes the bass and the body kind of slightly more rejuvenated. It basically gets rid of minor scratches, minor polishing marks and buff marks. And the idea is that if you've got fingerprints on it, this will get rid of it. So this can be used on pretty much all basses as long as it's not cracked, damaged, or if it's matte. So if it's a matte bass and it's a matte finish, you basically just need to use the cloth, make it slightly damp, and basically just wipe over it because it's a matte finish. So just make sure that you know what I mean by that. If you don't have a clue what your bass is, check it out online. You can obviously find the bass that you've got somewhere on the internet and find out what it is. So that's the first step. The second step is the guitar wax. Obviously it says guitar, but it's made for electric guitars, acoustic guitars and basses. And this is a wax that's just going to give you that nice clean polished shine. Once again, you can use it on everything as long as it's not matte, cracked or damaged. And what I mean by cracked is whether the paint job or whether your bass has a crack in it, because this is basically going to seep into that crack. It's going to make it worse and it's going to dry the bass out. So just make sure that you're not using it on cracked, damaged or matte finishes. This is step 3, and this is a spray cleaner. This gets rid of fingerprints, basically just kind of any blemishes, and it just gives you a nice, once again, polished, clean look. And all three go together to give you obviously a nice finish, nice clean bass, and it will actually feel nice in your hands as well, nice and smooth. So it doesn't cause any kind of unwanted friction in your playing, and obviously when you're actually trying to play quick. So once again, same thing, don't use it on cracked or damaged basses, and always just double check on the label whether you can use it for your bass. Really, really important, but obviously it's a very good thing to check. So that is step 3. The final step is hydrate, which I'll explain right now. So this is the final step. This is hydrate, and this is used for the fretboard, the fingerboard, and the neck. And this basically gets rid of all the grime, all the dirt, all the dust, just all the sweat that can build up as you're playing bass for quite a while. Don't use this on maple or unfinished maple fretboards though, because the idea is that it will discolor it slightly. And what I mean by unfinished maple is if it isn't sealed or finished and it is a bright color, because maple is usually quite a bright wood, then just make sure that you're not using this without consulting what your bass is made from. So maple fretboards, definitely check on your bass whether it's finished or whether it's untreated. And if it's untreated, do not use this. If you've got a bass like this, which is rosewood or a dark wood, then you can use this because it's a dark finished wood. So just check the color, check what it's made from, you're all good to go. So that is our 4-step process, and I'm going to show you how to apply it. Really, really dead simple, but just in case, I'll show you anyway. So really, really dead simple. All we want to do is take the cloth, apply a small amount of the product to the cloth, and then we want to wipe it wherever it's meant to go, whether it's the body, whether it's the neck, whether it's the fretboard. So the first 3 stages, and I'm just going to do this nice and quickly because you can do this at home. The first 3 stages are going to be applied to the body, so don't apply it directly, apply it to the actual microfiber cloth, and then wipe it in a circular motion across the instrument, across the body. You don't want to go up and down like this, because it's almost like cleaning a window. You're basically just going to smear it across, and you're going to get a weird smudge and a weird line. So circular motion, if you've ever seen the film Wax On, Wax Off, you probably know what that film's from, right? If you don't, doesn't matter, but it's wax on, wax off, literally in a circular motion. Just rub it across the whole of the body, and then when it comes to the hydrate, which is step 4, you want to do the same thing. So apply it to the cloth slightly, just a little, and then rub it in a slightly circular motion across. And you can use it on the wood and also the frets, because the frets do get dirty and grimy as well. So this instrument is pretty clean, so I'm not actually going to clean it because you won't tell the difference. But the idea is just make sure that it's on the cloth, and then you go around in a circular motion. You're all good to go. Make sure you do step 1 before step 2. Make sure you do step 2 before step 3, and then use the hydrate last. That's if you're using the Essentials Kit. There is also something called lemon oil, which I'm going to show you now. So if you've got lemon oil, which is kind of the industry standard for cleaning instruments, it's actually a cleaner and a conditioner. And what that means is you can use it on certain bodies, on certain necks, and on certain fretboards. Once again, you do not want to use it on natural woods, unfinished woods, or unfinished, untreated maple necks. So just check what your bass is made from, and you will be able to use this pretty safely as long as you check. So just literally triple check everything, and then this won't damage your bass or won't discolor it. But this can be used for pretty much everything on the bass guitar. And here's a little bit of a pro secret. If you put a little bit of lemon oil on your microfiber cloth and just run it up and down the back of the neck, it means that when you're trying to play really quickly, your thumb actually glides across because it is slightly smoother. As dust and dirt builds up, your thumb can actually kind of get stuck because it gets a bit grimy. So make sure that you're just rubbing a little, literally a little bit into the neck, and you'll be able to play faster with 0 practice. Always a good thing to know. So those are all the cleaning products that you can use. Once the instrument is clean, you're going to have to touch it with your fingers again, so you might get a few fingerprints here and there, but I'll show you what to do after. So once the bass is clean, we're now going to restring it, and then that way you've actually got strings on the bass to make a sound. So when it comes to restringing your bass, which is the main part of the cleaning and maintenance, what you want to do is make sure you're using the right strings. So we've got nickel strings here, which it says nickel wound at the top. These are going to be quite mellow, but still quite bright. And that might sound like a massive random sentence and a contradiction, but the idea is nickel wound strings aren't the brightest sounding strings you can buy. So I recommend trying literally all the different types to see whether you like mellow or whether you like bright. I like nickel wound because they're kind of in the middle, and you can get different thicknesses and different sizes as well. This is nickel wound and it's 100, so the highest number is 100. That means how thick your E string is. So it's pink to be very visual, but these are regular light gauge strings, which means they're quite thin compared to others. And once again, personal preference. Some people like thicker strings, some people like thinner strings. You've just got to literally try as many different things as you want to, and you'll settle on what's best for you. So I like nickel wound strings, but I don't like the pink set. I actually prefer the green set. So I actually prefer these, which is 105 in thickness, so they are slightly thicker. And that means that there's just a bit more string for me to touch, a bit more string for me to play, and it's my personal preference, but they're still nickel wound strings, which means they're quite in the middle of the dull and bright spectrum. So just to show you, you can get other strings as well. These are pro steel strings, and the idea is they're the same thickness because they're 105, but because they're pro steel strings are a lot brighter, they ping off, and to be fair, sometimes they might rip your ears to pieces because they're that bright. But some people like that sound, some people don't. Once again, personal preference, you do you. Try finding different strings and different thicknesses, settle on what sounds good, and then don't let anybody tell you different. So pro steel are brighter, nickel wound are duller, and they're in the middle. And then you can also get other strings that are slightly more dull. So just try and do a bit of research. All of these are Adario Strings, which is my favorite brand. And once again, personal preference, just check them out, give it a try, and eventually you will settle on something that's good for you. So they're all the different types of strings that you can get. I know I haven't labeled them all, but there are obviously millions. So you can get dull, in the middle, and bright. Let's actually string the bass up, just so you know how to do it, and then that way you can get some sound on your bass, and you're all good to go. And then obviously check out my tuning video as well, because you need to tune it to standard tuning. So check out that video after you've strung the bass. So I've got my 4 strings from the nickel wound Adario pack. And the best thing about Adario strings is they're colored by the ball end. And the ball end is literally the end, and it ends in a ball. And this goes into your bridge, which is why you need to know different terms and you need to understand what a bridge is. Otherwise, it's going to make 0 sense. So the bronze/gold is your E string, and it's the thickest. Your red is your A string. The black is your D string, and then the green is your G string. So if you don't know which string is which, I'm going to show you now and allow you to string up your own bass by watching this, and you can just keep rewinding it until you get it right. So the first one is the E string, which is the thickest one of the bunch, and it's the gold or the bronze kind of string for the Adario. So let's actually string up your E string, and then we're going to do it 3 times again just to get all 4 strings on. So make sure you've got the right string, that is gold or bronze, and you just don't want to put the wrong string on, otherwise you're just completely messing it up from the start. So this is the right thickness, this is the right string, and what we do is this bit, the ball end, goes into the bridge of the bass. So just like this. The ball end is literally in the bottom of the bridge there, and it's not going to come out. It's locked in place. And then what we do is we run the string through the saddle, which is the curve in the bridge there. If you don't know what I'm on about, go and watch the anatomy of the bass guitar video. And we're going to run it all the way up the bass through the nut there, into the machine head. One thing and one word of warning is when you put it through the machine head, you want to make sure that it actually goes in the middle because there's a hole. So if it doesn't, it's gonna go wrong. So that is now in place. I haven't done anything. I've literally just put it in. The string may be completely straight if you've just brought new strings. So what you want to do is curve it so the string goes straight through the nut. So you don't want to go to the left and round because the left is the wrong direction. You want to go to the right and curve it round and then into the hole in the machine head. So now when I tune it up, which is clockwise, so turn the tuning peg clockwise, just make sure that you've got a firm grip on the string so it doesn't pop out, and literally just keep turning it until it gets quite tight, because then you know it's not going to pop off. Really, really, really dead simple. You just got to kind of take your time with it to start with. So that's getting quite tight. If I bring the bass up, it's coming quite far away from the instrument, but it's not coming out. So that is enough to kind of just lock the string in. And obviously I'm just going to tune it a little bit more. There you go. So that's definitely going nowhere. That's the E string. All we have to do is do that 3 more times, and that's going to be for the A, the D, and the G string. So just to reiterate, through the bridge, so you put the end, the ball end, in the bridge, run it through the saddle, all the way up the bass, through the nut, curve it around the machine head to the right if your tuning peg's here. If your tuning pegs are at the bottom, you want to go to the left. So it'll go through the nut and to the left. And then just make sure it's in the hole of the tuning peg, tighten it up, and you're all good to go. So I'm now going to do the A, the D, and the G string. I'm not going to talk, I'm just going to do it just so you can see that I'm doing the exact same thing, and then I'll explain what we finally do before we tune the bass, which is in another video which you should check out, obviously, once you finish this one. So I've got the A string, which is the red one for the Adario set, and once again, through the bridge, through the saddle, through the nut, into the machine head. So I'm just going to do that now really quickly, and I'll stop talking. So that is now my A string kind of fully strapped onto the bass, not in tune, but it's through the machine head and through the bridge, which means it's going nowhere, which is what we want. Just a word of warning, if you are wrapping it, or when you wrap it around the machine head, you want to make sure that the wires and the actual string doesn't kind of wrap over itself. You want a nice clean spiral going down. So if you end up with like an X where some of the string is going over the top of the other one, that is wrong. That's going to basically give you unwanted vibration across the string. So if you can see these right here, they're all wrapped around nice and spiraled. So they go round and down just in a spiral, never actually going over the top of each other. And that is the way that you want it. If you get really long strings by accident and your bass is a lot shorter, you can get wire cutters or string cutters, And all you do is you measure just a little bit further past where it's going in, and you slice off the end of it. So if you're tuning the E string or restringing the E string, pull the string quite tight, get it to about here, so obviously it's a little bit further, cut it off there, and then you'll be able to then string it up. Everything's all good to go. So that was the E and the A string. This can take 5, 10, 15 minutes, so just take your time with it. I'm going to do the D and the G string now, but just remember, because they're this side, I need to go through the nut and to the left, because if I go to the right, it's the wrong direction. So through the nut and then down to the left. So let's do the D string first, and then obviously the G string second. So once you've got all 4 strings on, which can take a long time, trust me, the idea is that once you've got it all on, you've probably just got your fingerprints all over the metal. And obviously what I mean by metal is the tuning pegs, maybe the machine heads, maybe even the bridge. So what you want to do is get your microfiber cloth, just wipe gently. You don't need to get any product on it or anything. So just the microfiber cloth, gently rub in a circle again across the metal, and you'll get all the fingerprints off. Give it a nice clean shine, and then that is how you string and maintain your bass. There's a few other little things we can do, but the thing is that takes a little bit more knowledge, takes a little bit more time, and you've got to be a lot more educated in what you're actually doing. So we're going to leave that for now, but I will teach you how to do that later on in other videos, and that is how to kind of change and maintain your truss rod and how to maintain and clean your electronics. But we don't need to do that, just for general cleaning and maintenance, and that's what this video was all about. So hopefully you know how to string your bass, you know how to clean it, you know how to make sure it doesn't get any rust on it or anything, and we're all good to go. And just before we finish, I'm going to show you an absolute sin of a bass, and this is the reason why if you never clean your bass, you're going to end up with something that looks terrible. So let me show you this horror before we finish. So this bass right here, you can see the strings have pretty much never been changed. There's loads of dirt and grime, and I know you can't touch it through the computer screen, but if you actually did touch these strings, they're really, really coarse, really grimy, and it's actually almost impossible to play anything on this and enjoy it. The reason why cleaning and maintaining your bass is really important is because you'll actually enjoy it more. So make sure that you don't let your bass get to this condition, and make sure you keep cleaning it. You don't need to do it every month, just do it every now and again, and you're absolutely fine. So hopefully that was really informative. You know what to do with your bass guitar now, so let's obviously tune it, let's make some noise, and obviously let's learn bass guitar. So when you're ready, I'll see you again in the next video.